Gino Buccola here alongside David Aragona. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We'll head on out to Aqueduct for the Friday race of the day. Remember, every race of the day, you can get free past performances at DRF.com. David, race 6 on Friday at Aqueduct. We'll have New York breds in the first level allowance, going 6.5 furlongs. We saw some of these horses running against New York bred stakes company as of late. Towards the outside, Princess Mischief, Mischief Lady, both of them make a lot of sense in here, kind of opposite ends of the spectrum from their styles. But I think Nina K, the one that they're all going to have to beat in here, coming off that really good runner-up effort behind With the Angels.
Yeah, as you go through the past performances of this race, you'll see that a lot of these horses have been beaten by With the Angels, that star New York bred filly who is undefeated for trainer Linda Rice. And actually her stablemate, Nina K, is the one that got the closest to her at the end of any race when she only lost to With the Angels by 2 lengths last time in the Key Sen. So that does kind of make Nina K the horse to beat. But do note, this was a race that was originally drawn last Thursday, so 8 days before it's carded for Friday. And there were 12 horses entered that day, and it seemed like there was a little more speed signed on in that first iteration. When they redrew the race from that canceled card for this upcoming Friday, not so much speed in there, and that could be a problem for Nina K.
That'll lead us right into the Timeform US pace projector, because I do agree that Mischief Lady looks like the quickest in here. And if you're just looking at the recent form, Mischief Lady had a lot of other early speed to deal with in her last race and doesn't seem to have that much on paper in this race.
No, she's a horse who did win going gate to wire 2-backs at an honest pace that day. And if she runs that fast through the opening stages of this race, I don't think anybody's going to be able to stay with her early. We'll just see if she can sustain it against winners here. As you said, probably is a slightly softer spot than she faced in that Stallion Series Stakes last time, where she did have to really work in a contested duel up front. Probably not going to be dueling here, so we'll see if she can rebound.
Let's meet the field for this one. We'll start on the inside with the number 1, Carmans Candy Jar. Multiple stakes place against New York breds. Actually tried the Demoiselle last time out. So if you look at her last 3 races, she's just been defeated by some nice fillies in there in Muhima and in With the Angels. With the Angels, 4 for 4. Muhima, 3 for 3 and undefeated. Gets Lasix for the first time here. So I'm just a little curious about where she's going to be on the cutback in distance after going a little bit longer in a race where there's not all that much early speed on paper, but she fits pretty well with this group, David.
She does. I mean, they kept gradually stretching her out in distance last year as a 2-year-old, all the way up, as you said, to that 9 furlongs in the Demoiselle, and just kind of felt like that's a little outside of her scope. I mean, she actually was traveling well to the far turn that day, and once push came to shove in the stretch, she just didn't really have the stamina to continue on, and stayed on okay for 5th, but was never really a factor that day. I think turning back to the 6.5 furlongs is going to suit her a lot better if she ends up running here. She actually is cross-centered, going 9 furlongs again on Saturday in the Busanda against Open Company. So we'll see where this Mike Rapoli-owned runner ends up. I know Mike likes to take a shot in some of the tougher races at times, but I do think this sprint race is a good fit for her. We'll just see if she gets much pace to close into.
Howling Wind will be making her 3rd career start. She debuted on a sloppy track and just didn't fire that day, but came back in career start number 2, and she pushed through with a rail draw, and she was able to wire that field. I don't really get the sense that she's necessarily all that fast. It was a good job by Luzzy and kind of just taking the initiative. You want to use some of that speed to hold position down there. So I could see her again being forwardly placed down here. I don't know if she's as quick as some of the others to the outside like Princess Mischief, but comes off of a nice win last time out. She blew up the tote board last time and probably will be a big price again on Friday.
Yeah, there was no speed in that last race, and she just kind of found herself in front by default. And I mean, it's a credit to her that she kept battling on once challenged in the stretch to win that race. She showed some grit through the final 1/8 of a mile, but this is a much tougher field. Some horses have run back out of that race to not exactly flatter the form, so I think she's in a tougher spot this time.
Next one up, Valina debuted a winner at Saratoga on August the 30th, but following that stepped up into New York bred stakes company in 3 straight races and lost to With the Angels. They've now given her a couple months off. She gets Lasix for the first time. Just kind of feels like a starting over point for her now. They drop out of stakes company, but they will face some of the same rivals they had to deal with in stakes company, just not the winner of those races With the Angels. So what do we do with the 3 in here?
Yeah, she had really run well on debut at Saratoga. A professional effort, going the demanding distance of 7 furlongs that day, beat a heavy Chad Brown favorite in that spot. The problem is she just really hasn't progressed since then, and actually went backwards in her last couple of starts. And the biggest problem for me is that she has completely lost any of the tactical speed that she once possessed in the Maid of the Mist and the Key Sense. She just got outrun through the early stages, especially last time. I mean, they cut back to a sprint distance, and she just couldn't keep up at any point in that race. So she has had that freshening. I just wonder if she's really continued on in her development.
Next one up is Straka, who broke her maiden in career start number 3. It was a pretty good start, took back to third, like a professional effort, sitting back off the pace and then moving to the lead, and won by 6+, David. So this one kind of came out of nowhere because the first 2 starts didn't really show a whole lot of finish. Improved in start number 2 and showed a little more speed going longer, but this was a really nice, powerful performance from Straka, who won at 16-1.
Yeah, I definitely did not have her at 16-1 this day. Did not see this performance coming, but hindsight's always 20/20 with horses like this. And you look back at her first couple of starts, and you can make the excuses. I mean, she just completely dwelt in the starting gate on debut, was left behind that field early, never had a chance. And then her second start, they stretched out to the mile. They had to use her from the inside to, race in a contested pace early. She just got tired going that distance. Maybe that set her up to actually run her A race last time, and she got a very good trip sitting in behind horses, but they were setting a legitimate pace up front. She traveled well in behind those runners, and when they split at the top of the stretch, you saw the way she came through in that replay, really finished strongly in the late stages. She's cutting back to the 6.5 here, but it's not like they're going to be going that much faster early in the sprint race than they were in the mile race last time, so I think she'll be able to keep up early. Some may hold it against her that she was in for the $80,000 tag here, but to me, that's just connections being realistic, and she's probably worth that much. So I won't be surprised if she runs well again.
Next one in here is Timia, who comes off of a 3rd place finish on November the 24th. Sat second, was chasing the heavy favorite that day. Was kind of no match, though, and was all in at the top of the lane. Did hold 3rd, but was well beaten, finishing 8 3/4 lengths behind. Just feels like she's going to have to run a lot faster than she's ever run in here to compete with some of the top contenders.
Yeah, you would have wanted to see a little more from her last time when she tried this level. I do think the winner of that race, Burning in the Rose, is a pretty nice horse, but she was no match for that rival, and she's one that I'm a little concerned might not be able to deal with a faster pace, and she's had success when she's been able to race up close to the pace in longer events.
So the next one, Nina K, feels like the horse to beat in here. If you look at her most recent start, she finished second behind With the Angels, and the horse that she finished in front of, the 3rd place finisher, Stone Smuggler, came back to defeat Princess Mischief and Mischief Lady. The horses right to her outside. She was well off early. She's kind of outrun David, about 5 lengths off, but she then started to travel really well. She had to angle out in a wide trying to follow With the Angels, was able to get up for second here.
Yeah, I thought this was a pretty good effort. You could see when we picked up this replay at the top of the stretch, she was Jose Lozcano was kind of deciding where to go, and he ended up trying to angle outside of With the Angels, who actually floated out her stablemate a little bit at the top of the stretch there. But once Nina K straightened out, she did finish up well to pick up second in the late stages that day. There was some pace that was coming apart at the end, even With the Angels won from off the pace that day. So things fell apart a little bit for Nina K to get up for second in that spot, but I like the progression from first start to second start. And as you said, she traveled pretty well into that fast pace. I don't think she's some deep closer who's going to be out the back door early. She's just probably not going to be contesting it up front. And to me, the biggest knock against her is that she has been big prices in both starts so far, 38-1 last time. And this time, now that her form is exposed, you have to swallow a much shorter price.
Princess Mischief is another one that we probably project to be coming from way out of it. I liked this horse last time, David, and at the top of the lane, I was feeling pretty confident because Princess Mischief was really traveling well, but she moved a little early and had to just go very, very wide and kind of flattened out a little bit down the stretch, and actually wasn't able to even hold second here, but she does have a really nice late kick, and you sort of know what you're going to get from her. She's just going to drop right back. If it sets up for her, she'll come running late, and you can kind of see that in her past performances.
Yeah, and when you watch this replay, you can see she's got a really short burst of speed that she has trouble sustaining, and you can kind of watch her come through the stretch. She just has a really short, choppy stride. Her legs move so quickly, and she can't really sustain that momentum when she, starts to accelerate. She can't really, keep it going for more than a quarter mile. She got a perfect trip and pace scenario to run at when she broke her maiden 2 back under Joel Rosario. He just kind of kept her held up, knew that she had that burst of speed, and unleashed it in the final quarter mile, and she just ran over the top of that field. As you said, making that long, sustained, wide run last time. It didn't ultimately work out when they got to the final furlong that day. I think cutting back slightly to the 6.5 is going to work for her, but what's not going to work is the fact that there's just not the pace to run into that she got when she broke her maiden.
We had Princess Mischief. Now we have Mischief Lady. And what's funny about these two is they are opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to their running styles. Princess Mischief, stone cold closer, and Mischief Lady, probably the speed of the speed in this field and really quick. And that was the problem in her last race, David, is she flashed some speed last time out, but she was 3 deep of 5 horses that were lining up across the track. And at the top of the lane was kind of still there, still had the lead briefly, but then backed up. So dealing with all that early pace and still hanging around a bit late, I thought was a pretty nice performance. And just the way this race shapes up really does seem like this Mischief Lady will probably get a better trip than Princess Mischief in here with all the other speed in that last race and just not as much here early on.
Yeah, and it might look discouraging on paper that she ended up finishing 6th, beaten 9 lengths in that stakes last time, but she actually finished ahead of all of the other horses that were involved in that early duel. So I do think she deserves some credit for at least hanging around longer than the others in the stretch. And you go back to her maiden victory 2 back, where she got to the front end, was setting a contested pace where she was challenged by a former Bob Baffert trainee coming in from the West Coast who had shown a lot of speed in her prior races. Mischief Lady put that one away and was able to win that race with a very respectable speed figure. If she's able to get back to that kind of trip where she can control things up front, I think she's going to be pretty tough to catch in this spot.
Rounding out the field is Idle Gossip, who was a last out stakes winner, and all of this horse's form has been at Finger Lakes. And the form has been solid, but this is a big step up in class, just facing tougher company here, David. And one of my concerns is we last saw her on November 11th, and since then, only 3 published works and kind of some gaps in between, so not even the most consistent pattern coming in. What do you think about Idle Gossip here rounding out the field?
Yeah, and she was actually entered in that $500,000 Fifth Avenue. Was a scratch that day, so something must have gone wrong for her not be able to participate for that big purse. And the spotty work tab could give some clues to that. I'm a little bothered by the fact that she seems to have lost her early speed, even though she did win last time coming from off the pace. She had so much speed in the first couple races of her career, and it just seems like she's completely changed around her running style over the course of these first 5 starts. The problem is she hasn't really progressed at all from a speed figure standpoint, and she would just have to get faster to beat a group like this.
So there's your field for the race of the day on Friday at Aqueduct. Remember, you can get free past performances at DRF.com. David, let's go to the selections here. Who are you going to put on top for this one?
I do think Mischief Lady, who you have on top, is the horse to catch and the one to beat given her running style. But the more I was looking at the number 4, Straa, while her last race was a bit of a surprise given the price that she was, when I watch it back, it seemed like a totally legitimate effort. I mean, the runner-up and the 3rd place finisher both came back to improve their speed figures in subsequent starts. The 3rd place finisher actually winning with a buyer that went up 18 points last weekend. So I think she's actually a horse that stacks up well against these, and maybe she'll be a fair price again. She's got some tactical speed.
Definitely the horse to play if you're looking for real value in the race. Completely agree with you. I didn't really get too crazy. I'm pretty logical with the top 4 in here, and I'll go to Mischief Lady with the outside draw, trying to clear this field and slow things down with that speed. So however you're playing them on Friday at Aqueduct, we wish you the best of luck.